Have you ever been in a situation where maybe you broke down or you have a major problem and you really don't even know where to start or even where to ask for help? If you're anything like me, I hate asking for help, but come on guys, sometimes you gotta suck it up, reach out and ask. If you've ever been in that situation where maybe you're broken down, you need some help, and you don't even know where to start, you know it's a pretty sinking feeling. It's not a good feeling at all. And that's kind of what we want to talk about a little bit today. Some of the resources that Dean and I use when we need help, when we reach out to other people or other places, where do we find some information so we can hopefully fix the situation that we're in? Now this isn't specific just to a broken down RV. It can be some general things as well. So I kind of want to go over basically some of the resources that we use. Now right off the bat, one of my favorite resources, one of the ones that's just the easiest thing for us, is whenever we check into a new campground, you have the office staff right there. You're already talking to them. Maybe you even have a campground host right there. They are a very, very good source of information. Things like, do you allow RV techs into the campground? What's the best RV tech in the area if they have multiple in the area? What about RV washers, or people want to wash and wax an RV? Which one's the best? Which one's the cheapest? Do you allow them in the campground? Things like this. Even things like, where's the cheapest place to get fuel, or the best grocery store, best shopping? All this kind of information is free. You're already talking to them. Why not get some of that information right there, right when you're checking in? Now, another source of information that we like to use as well is just general RVers in the same campground. If we're in a campground walking around, we start talking to people. If we find out they're from the local area, we'll ask them, what's there to do around here? Any tips, anything like that? We've been to a few places where we've done that. We found like secret little local watering holes, things that don't usually ever get missed, or you would never know about, things like that. All these little things that the locals know about, they don't want to tell you about. Usually fellow RVers in the campground, they're more than happy to share that type of information with you. So between a campground host, a campground staff, fellow RVers from the local area, you can get a lot of information, and it really, really helps from there. Now those are kind of the simple things. I do want to go into a few things on the computer. We're going to get on the computer. I want to show you a few things there, and these can help out in some other situations as well. Now that we talked about some of the real basic things you can do as far as talking like with campground hosts and fellow RVers, I wanted to show you a website that we like to use for, again, you can do some prep work if you want some information, maybe some manuals, things like that on some of your appliances or some of the products on your RV. Or if you do need help, this is a very good website to look at as well. Now what we're going to talk about is the Lippert website. And if you know anything about RVs, there's a lot of Lippert components inside the RV. But there's some prep work you could do even if you don't need help. Maybe you want to be prepared in the future, you need some manuals. I just want to show you a few things on that. If you go to the Lippert website, if you go over to support and then click on documentation, what we're going to do is we're just going to maybe pick a leveling system. We'll kind of scroll down through that and just kind of show you some of the things you have available to you. So we're going to scroll down to leveling systems. Okay, you can see here we have leveling and stabilization. We'll click on this. We're going to click on hydraulic leveling. And now towable level up. And we'll pick like what we have on our momentum. We have the towable level up, OCTP. Now you can see this is a really, really good location for some manuals, some product descriptions. You can see that they have assemblies, how to assemble it, product components. So if your manufacturer is anything like ours, it's really, really hard. They don't give you schematics, they don't give you diagrams, things like that. Like if you were to fix something yourself, you may not even know what components comprise of, like in this case, a leveling system. So this is a really good place. You can download some of these and just save them in case you need them in the future. They also have, manuals, maintenance, and things like this, quick references, technical information. This is a really, really good place for some upfront. Hopefully you can get some of this information before you have an issue. Now let's take a scenario. Let's say you're in a campground. You're getting ready to leave for the weekend, and maybe your level up system is not working. Help, right? Where do I start? Where do I go and look for help? This might be another good place to look. So let's just take that scenario. If we click on support, we can click on support videos, and let's just type in something that something we're looking for. How about leveling jacks manual override? We're going to search on this. Now here you can see we have a video, and this is how to manually override your jacks. So we can click on this video, go through this. Hopefully this is enough information to help us. It might get us, if at least it pointed in the right direction. It gives us a little bit more information just in case it doesn't help all the way, but this is a really, really good place to start if you have an emergency type situation. Now something else that we did was we went through some of these videos, just not to watch them all, but just to see what's out there, to see what's available. So I do know if I have a problem with my leveling system, I can come here and maybe get some information. If I have a problem with our slide outs, I can come here and also get some information as well on that. So this is the Lippert website. We will put a link below to these websites, so you don't have to worry about memorizing them. So hopefully this gives you some place to start looking for help if you do need it. If you do find stuff like this helpful, please subscribe to our channel. It helps us out, and it also lets YouTube know that you're watching our videos. And make sure you hit that like button as well. Thanks. Now this one happens to be probably one of my favorites. When we first started, actually before we started RVing, I was on this website all the time. It's called irv2.com, and it's a forum. It's a place that we would go when we were doing our research, and we would ask questions, and I asked a ton of questions. But if you know anything about RVers, they're more than happy to help, and it's nothing to get pages and pages of responses. Now, it's up to you, or I should say it was up to me going through some of these responses to kind of weed out, if things I didn't think were correct. Some things definitely pointed me in the right direction. Lots of times what happens, if I ask a technical question on here, I will get multiple responses. I will read through those, and even if I only pick up one or two things from each response, by the time you put them all together, it usually gives you a really, really good idea on where to start looking into a problem. I love this site because, again, it's an RV forum. The forums, they can be split up into different categories. Maybe you're looking for fifth wheels or motor homes, toy haulers. So you can break things down into smaller subsections as well. But these don't have to be strictly technical breakdown type issues you're having. One of the things I brought up, this is a question that I posted a while back. I had a question about passing through New York City. We're going to be going through New York, and I didn't think I wanted to go through the city. I asked a question about what's the best way to get around New York City, and this really, really helped me out. As you can see, we got a bunch of responses. People have different opinions, of course, different ways to get around. But again, what I did was I went through all of these, and you start to see a pattern. You'll see most of the people will say, take a certain route, or make sure you go around this. And when you start seeing multiple people saying the same thing, it gives you a pretty good idea. That's probably not a bad suggestion. So again, these don't have to be hard, broken down problems. They could just be general questions or advice as well. So this is a really good example that we actually used, and we changed our route around based on this question. Something else we did, now this is a question I posted a while back. We had a problem with our hot water. Sometimes the hot water would barely come out of all of our faucets. I knew it wasn't a specific faucet, it was something in common. I posted a question out here about, I have slow water coming out only on my hot water side. Cold water side was fine. Start reading through the responses, and one of my very first responses talked about there's a check valve on the back of the hot water heater. I remembered that. I went through some more, and somebody else mentioned the check valve. Sure enough, with that information, now what I did is I went into our basement, went into the back of the hot water heater. There was a check valve in there, and we actually did a video on this. I'll put the link down below, or actually I'll put it up here. You can check it out up there. But we did a whole video on this check valve, and sure enough, that was the problem. So IRV2, I really love this site. RVers are great. They're a great bunch of people. They're always more than happy to help out and give you some advice. Some of it may not be the best advice, but it's advice. So IRV2.com, great website. Hopefully, since you're watching a YouTube video, you already know about YouTube. Now, this seems kind of funny, but honestly, when we were researching RVing, YouTube was kind of our go-to place. There's a lot of channels out there for RVing. Of course, you gotta want to watch this one first off, but there's a lot of channels out there for RVing. We took advantage of that. We watched a lot of them, and we learned a lot. And honestly, it's kind of one of the reasons why we have our own little channel. We're not like the big boys, but we figured we learned a lot from other people. If we can hopefully learn something, or something that we've learned, maybe we can share it and help somebody else too. So I guess paying it back, I guess, is how I kind of look at it. But YouTube, a great source of information. Again, you can look up things like, I have a problem in this example right here. This is what we talked about in a minute ago, was we had a hot water heater low flow type problem. We created a video on what we did to fix our problem. So there's a lot of places out there you can look. This is just one example, but YouTube is also a great source of information, and we still use it today. If we have some problems, it's kind of one of the first things we'll start looking at, and then if we have questions, we may jump back to IRV2.com and ask some questions there. So put all these things together, and you can usually figure out what's going on. Now, believe it or not, YouTube is not the only social media site out there where you can get some information or get some help. Our manufacturer, Grand Design, actually has user groups or groups on Facebook. And there's some general groups, maybe Grand Design owners, but they also break these down into types of RVs. We have a Momentum. They actually have a Grand Design Momentum owners group as well. This is a great place for us. Hopefully other manufacturers are doing the same thing. But we actually had a problem last year, and we did a video on this as well, but we had a sub panel which I never even heard about, and it's underneath one of our steps that lead up into the front bedroom. Never knew it was there, never even heard about it. We had some electrical issues. I did go out to IRV2, I asked some questions. Again, this was really specific to our 397TH. I did come back to Facebook. I went to the Momentum owners and came in here, and I asked a question about what was going on. I kind of explained the situation. I got a lot of responses back. Again, I went through all the responses. You kind of put pieces together from each one. I did find out I had a sub panel. I also found out that the sub panel is below one of our steps. At that point, I was able to take a step off, get access to the sub panel, and honestly, there was a loose wire down there, and we also had a bad breaker as well. So because of Facebook, because of Grand Design's user groups, I got my problem solved. I didn't have to take it in, to a shop and have them charge me an arm and a leg. It was a very simple fix. Again, I reached out for help. The Grand Design user groups on Facebook, they were unbelievable, and they helped out quite a bit. So that's another example of RVers helping out other RVers. Now, if you're really in some serious problem, if you're stuck, you're on the side of the road, you're broke down, you don't know what to do. Luckily for us, Grand Design also has an emergency alliance group. This is a Facebook group as well. Now this is a pretty strict site, or I should say they try to keep it strict. They want this for emergencies only. Again, you're stuck on the side of the road, you're broke down, you can't get anywhere, you're asking questions like, my engine's bad, who can tow me, where's the closest place to get a tow, is there anybody around that I should call? These are for emergencies only. But if you're in that situation, this is another great resource to be aware of. Maybe keep it in the back of your mind just so you know it's there, and hopefully you never have to use it. But it's always nice to know it's there just in case. So again, this is the Grand Design Emergency Alliance group on Facebook. Now those are the main resources that we use when we're reaching out for help. But there's some other things that we do as well, and I can't go into everything. There's so many resources out there, but something else that we like is called MyRVtravel.com. It's a website. They have some really good information. Now what we do is we subscribe and we get like a daily newsletter or daily email, and usually the way they do it is they'll have a Ask Dave, or basically some technical questions and maybe some general questions as well. But usually what I do is I at least look at the technical questions. If it doesn't really interest me, if it's something I don't need, maybe I won't read it. But a lot of times it's some really good information, again, just to keep in the back of your mind. Things like, what's the best way to flush out a water heater? How do I replace a window in my RV? Maybe I have a bad battery. How do I replace it? What do I look for? Hooking up a 50 amp service, the wiring. It could be anything, but some of this stuff, it's just kind of nice to know it's there. Again, what I do is I'll read the headlines. If it's something I'm curious about, I'll go ahead and read it and things like that. It could be anything from tow vehicles to washing your roof, fixing awnings. It could be anything. So that's another really good source for some general information. Now something else, there's also apps out there as well. There's probably more apps that you know what to do with. Lippert has one called the Lippert Community, Lippert Communities, and one of them is Lippert Scouts. This is for an RVing community. We don't use this one too much, but it's on my phone and it's available. It's kind of almost a cross between just a Facebook, hey, here's what I'm doing today kind of stuff, and it also has some technical, so you can reach out to other RVers as well. So maybe you're driving down the road, you're thinking about a problem you had, maybe your passenger can get on the app, pull up the Scout and ask a question, and maybe you'll have your answers before you get to your next stop. So there's an awful lot of places, a lot of resources out there you can look at. If you use something that we didn't mention today, please leave a comment below. Help out another fellow RVer. I know there's tons and tons of resources out there. So hopefully this gives you a place to start if you are in a situation where you need help, you need a place to look. Hopefully one of these suggestions can help you out as well. I know it's saved us in the past for sure. Remember, always live life to the fullest.